I am Amy Rose Herrick, America's Profit Building Specialist. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about retirement this time. Anyway, we are sharing a screen and you should be able to see where it says retirement. After all, it's only money. When are you going to retire? Now, I work with a couple of different screens, so I will be coming back with my picture and looking at you at times. But as I go through, I'll just try to check back and check the chat now and then. And when I have multiple screens going up, sometimes it's a little difficult to get through, but work with me and I'll work with you. All right. Now, I'm going to probably have a different type of a conversation about retirement than you're used to. And when going through this, just kind of work through, and I'm hoping to also open your mind to some other alternatives that you have. I always have a real quick disclosure. You know, your situation is unique. I would anticipate that you are going to talk to your advisors, and these could be your attorneys, your tax individuals. This could be your financial advisor. This could be your portfolio manager. But on any of those types of things, you're free to reach out to me also. But I'm going to help you start knowing what questions you need to ask. And I'm not sure if you can hear that, but today we have another little challenge because on our challenge, we've got some construction going on. So I've gone to the headset. Hopefully that'll take care of it. Well, what does an age have to do with your retirement date? I know for some of you, you're going to have an idea of, well, define early. And then we've got full retirement age and delayed. And for most of you, that all came about because of Social Security. Social Security deemed you as retiring early at 62. Your full retirement age, depending upon what your date of birth was, is 65 to 67. And then you have a delayed retirement. And that delayed retirement is usually after 70 years of age. But I don't really feel anymore that retirement has a thing to do with age. You will see on the left-hand side where I've got some younger individuals. You know, there are individuals that they have had great success in life, or they have changed their lifestyle so that they are semi or mostly retired. In addition, I have individuals that may have retired from a career, but then they went back and created another career. They may have actually retired 2 or 3 times from different industries or different endeavors. And when you look at some of these pictures, as I said, now if we go to the far right, you know, we talk about defined delayed. How many of you think that Morgan has retired, or Mick Jagger? If they're still out doing concerts and they're still making movies, you know, I can argue that maybe they're not retired. So some individuals may never retire, but that's something that's entirely up to you. Now, when I look at retirement, most people just associate retirement with monetary resources. And I don't believe that is the only place that you have your resources. You have your health. You've got talents, you've got income streams. Your time is probably your biggest asset, and you don't realize that. It's how you use that time. You've got a knowledge base, you have abilities. What about your surroundings? Because some of you will stay put, some of you will downsize. We're going to talk about some other lifestyles that can go along with retirement too. What are your desires? So when I look at the total picture for retirement, I don't see it as just a monetary equation. It has a lot of other components in it that you may not be looking at that are assets. Now, I don't want you to fall for the big lie. You'll hear constantly about, well, retirees are living on a fixed income. I don't think this is news. If a retiree, for example, had been a teacher, a physician, the checker down at the local store, the veterinarian, the gas station owner, whoever the individual was. In many, many cases, they are living on pretty much a fixed income for all of their lives. And I say that because entrepreneurs often will have income that will vary. But the majority of people, if you're working on a W-2 or some type of a contract, you do not have the ability to just go in and say, you know what, to make my life easier, I just need a $500 a week raise starting right now into eternity. And you'll have no problem doing that, boss, right? No, most people live on a fixed income already. So going into a fixed income in retirement is still something most people are going to work within, but the dynamics may be different. You may not have the same work experiences, but you may have more that you're spending on travel and leisure. So when I look at some of the realities of that, the one thing that I really want you to take hold of, and it doesn't matter what your income level is before or after retirement, bounce checks. You cannot afford them. Late pays, collection accounts, poor credit scores, no savings, borrowing was a way of life. If these are ingrained, what I will call traits that you have before you go into retirement, you have got to rectify this, because it is not going to get any better when you are in retirement. It can actually undermine your ability to retire or force you to go back into the workforce, and you may or may not be able to do that. And I don't believe I can have a retirement discussion without talking about the word enough. What is enough? Well, enough is not always a number that you carry under your arm down the street. Enough can be a lot of different things, but for each one of you that are in the presentation today, enough can mean a variety of different things. But we're going to think about what is enough for you and your circumstances. There are different types of retirement. When I think about retirement, there's the dream retirement. That is what I will call the rose-colored glasses scenario. Everything goes according to plan. The house doesn't need a huge major repair. Your health is excellent. You've got plenty of money to do whatever it is you want to do. Nobody gets sick. Nobody dies. Not everybody gets the dream retirement forever. They may have phases of the dream retirement, but sometimes life happens. You could have a working partial retirement, and that fits you perfectly, because without work, you feel a little lost. You can have a realistic retirement, and that's based on what your circumstances are at that particular time, which can all change. So I believe that you're going to have stages of retirement over time that go along with your age, your resources, and your health. Some of you are going to be forced to retire, and it may not be for the reasons that you anticipated. Maybe you are married and your spouse requires care and you become the primary caregiver for whatever reason. Then maybe you have parents or you have another generation that requires that you step in. In order to do that, you need to let go of employment. Your family dynamics may change. Some of you may end up raising grandchildren. It is a fact. Things change. Now, for others, you may have a health change, and that could be anything from arthritis to maybe your stamina has changed, your strength. Our bodies have a natural aging process. I know I may still feel 18 and 25, but my body may not agree that that is the number that I'm at this point. And the other thing that can change over time is your vision or your mobility. Some people have difficulty with knees or hips or feet. Some individuals will have them replaced in their 40s. Some don't, and it doesn't arrive till later. And you may never need that, but it's very unique to what your lifestyle, whether you played sports, did you have accidents? Those type of things can change. But there are times when we are forced into retirement that we really never anticipated. If you see something like this coming, or it happens very suddenly, you need to get with your financial advisors to line it out so it is as smooth of a transition as possible. And if you need to make changes, you can do that sooner rather than later, because we don't want to burn through all the resources too quickly. Now, what about a debt-free retirement? Because I told you we're going to talk about different kinds of retirement. Now, debt-free retirement, is this going to be the trigger that when you have the house and the car or whatever debts that you might have, that is going to be the time that you retire? Well, for some people, that is the goal. They want to have a debt-free retirement, or they need to have a debt-free retirement in order to be able to live within their means. And there really isn't room if we have a lot of payments on it. But I do want to tell some of you that if you are looking at housing or you haven't paid a mortgage off, whatever the reasons are, maybe you don't want to pay a mortgage off because you want to maintain an amount of money in your savings or retirement funds. The answer can be different for different individuals. It doesn't matter how old you are. You would be able to qualify for a mortgage, 15, 20, 30-year mortgage, and it's going to be based on your income. Now, whether your income happens to be Social Security or it happens to be Social Security and a pension, You will have some IRA withdrawals or retirement, but you can wipe those accounts out at any time. They're usually looking at your recurring income streams. Do you want a mortgage at that point? I don't know. It depends upon your dynamics, but it's certainly something that you could qualify for. And when we talk about retirement as a lifestyle, we go back to how do you rearrange, some of the pieces that you have in order for you to stay put. When I mentioned about the natural aging process, I'm going through it, others are too. What about the maintenance on the home that you're living in? Before it may have been no big deal to put scaffolding up so that you could paint the second floor, or you could go back and recaulk windows or install shutters, whatever the case may be. But you may not have the mobility, or it may not be wise for you to be going up ladders and that type of thing. Then what about your mobility and safety in your area? Can you drive to the services that you need? Do you live in a rural area where it's going to be a little more difficult? What about your location? Is your location close to family? Is it close to medical services? Is it close to being able to get groceries and other items that you need? And what kind of support services do you need? Now, there are a lot of councils on aging that can come into play. And whether you are looking at putting these in place for yourself or for the next generation, which might be your parents or grandparents, the Council on Agings can be wonderful resources. At times, that can make the difference where they can come in and help with grocery shopping, whether it's on a temporary or a long-term basis. They could also help with a little bit of house cleaning if you need some assistance with bathing. My whole goal is to keep someone in their home or in a location that they want to be in for as long as possible. And it's okay to ask for help and to get that help to help an individual maintain their independence, because things can change. As I said, maybe it's short term. You needed to have a surgery and you need just a little help to get you over the hump. Maybe it is long term. It doesn't matter. We need to look at what's enough and on the resources to make the retirement that you've worked and waited so long for to be absolutely the best retirement for you that it could be. What about lifestyle in retirement? Well, some of you won't think about, I'm going to downsize. We don't need the 5-bedroom house anymore. The kids only come to visit once a year. It's a lot of maintenance. Just vacuuming the house at this point is becoming an issue for me. Maybe you don't used to enjoy the large flower gardens, but now it feels more like a chore that is taking away your free time. Well, when you think about smaller, I don't think smaller is always cheaper. Can you afford the maintenance on the new location? If you downsize out of one house and go to the other, if you decide to go into a condo or something like that, you may have traded all of the exterior maintenance and you may have gained a pool. You may have gained, a exercise room, other activities, whatever the case may be. But we have to factor in the home ownership dues, or maybe you have condo fees and those types of things. Now, depending upon your location, when I say that downsizing does not always mean that you downsize your expenses. And that's something that we just work within the budget on how to make that work for you. Now, some of you may be thinking about, when I retire, I'm going to move closer to my kids. That may be because not all children stay in the same geographic area with their parents. They get an education, jobs, spouses, those can all have them relocate and then to make ties into a new community. Well, what if you move and they move again? Are you going to plan to follow your children in those types of scenarios? Or is that nothing that's going to be on your radar at that point? What type of support services are there? What do you like to do? Now, the other thing that I see catches a few people unaware is if you live in a state that you have not paid state income taxes before, and you move to a state that has state income taxes, you need to watch those rates because your state income taxes could take an additional 3 to easy 7 or 8% of your income with a new tax burden that you never had before. So be very conscious of when you move, what those tax brackets are going to be. And let me give you a little hint that I've seen some retirees mess up on before. Let's say that you live in a state that has no state income taxes and you're moving to a state that does have state income taxes. And you decide that you're going to take a lump sum out of a retirement account that is going to be taxable to you because you're buying a new location. And you decide to wait until you have moved to the new location. This can cost you thousands of dollars. If you were take the withdrawal out where you were living that had no income taxes, or if it had no income taxes where you were going, in lieu of taking the money out where you were subject to state income taxes, again, you could preserve an additional 3 to 7 to 10% of that withdrawal and not lose it to taxes. So there are a lot of different things that can happen when we're thinking about retirement, whether it's sooner or later, that can we have a huge control on the money and how you can work within that. For some families, I've also seen them build some turnkey housing. Some of you have heard about the tiny house movement or small houses. If the children have a large enough piece of property, if the zoning allows it, maybe they will build an addition onto the house with a separate driveway. So you have the closeness, but you both still maintain your privacy. Or maybe it's a separate structure that accomplishes the same thing. In many cases, that would be much less expensive than securing another property. And it may take care of the yard work, maintenance, and some of the other issues. So it's a dynamic to look at and what works with your family. Just to reiterate here, if you have any questions whatsoever, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A. What about retirement as a travel lifestyle? Now you're giving up the fixed location. Can you afford more travel? Where do you want to go? Where have you always wanted to go? Now, that's a little different from where you feel obligated to go. Now, if you are on a travel lifestyle, you may want to work it into your calendar that you go visit your children once or twice a year and plan on staying, whether you stay within their home, maybe there's a motorhome or a fifth wheel parked in the driveway that is your home away from home. Maybe you rent a house, an apartment, whatever works for you. But you also have to work into this, where do you feel obligated to go? In some cases, it may be easier to bring family to you than to send and for you to go back to where the family is. If you're saving a significant amount of money with the travel lifestyle versus trying to travel and maintain a fixed location, you may have the resources to take the family onto some locations that they'd never get to see otherwise. Now, with the travel lifestyle, there are many individuals of a variety of ages that do a little bit of remote work, or they don't have to. And they are literally living out of 2 suitcases, or maybe it is a suitcase, an underseat, and a carry-on, whatever the case may be. But while the health is there, the desire is there. And now at present, travel can be a little bit more challenging. That will come back in time. But is a travel lifestyle something you've always wanted? And maybe it involves a motorhome traveling from coast to coast. I don't know. But it's your retirement and you should be able to build it any way you want. And when I talked about the different phases of retirement, there may be a travel portion of the retirement that you want to do before you go into a different phase, but don't discount a travel lifestyle. Now, when you're doing the travel lifestyle, another one that I didn't mention is, what about a boat? Some individuals will decide that they want to go boating and maybe go up and down the coast or whatever the case may be. It's certainly an option. There are some that go on to house sitting. That can be done abroad or, in the US, and you literally go in. Usually this is an unpaid position and you take care of the home, maybe the gardens, if they have animals, whatever the case may be. Those may be for a short period of time. They may be for a little longer, or you may have that type of arrangement if you want to keep a home base, but you don't want the house to be empty all of the time. So you've got a lot of options if you're thinking about travel as a lifestyle. Did you ever think about retirement as a volunteer lifestyle? Now, many of you have wanted to do things, but because of your work schedules or you were very limited, there were things that you couldn't do. There are groups all over the world. Some of them are going to be associated with your faith-based organizations. You may be in a faith-based organization that already has particular outreaches that they work with, that now is the opportunity where you could go serve for a short time or maybe a little bit longer. Globally, you've heard the term probably NGOs, that stands for non-governmental agencies. If you think about an organization like Doctors Without Borders, they really have no government affiliation. They are on their own, and there are all types of organizations from that. You can also see those that deal with dental, the ones who deal with eyeglasses. There's a variety of things. So if the volunteer lifestyle is something that you wanted to do for a season, a short period of time or longer, there's all types of ones that are available. There's also science-based research. One of the funnest ones that I saw several years ago was going to the island of Tonga, which I think would be amazing. And you would assist in shallow water in taking giant clams, the young ones, and putting those in circles, because the giant clams do best and growing, and also for repopulating and giant clam circles. Who would know? But there are many, many science-based organizations that are looking for volunteers. So I'm going to go back and mention that word is enough. What is enough for you is going to be different than what is enough for me or someone else. And if you can arrange your pieces to make it enough, go for it. Don't hesitate. I think it is something that we all sometimes wait too long. Now, when we're operating on a fixed income, then we usually have an annual budget. Some of you may be paid every month. Some of you may get dividends or some things once a year. Or if you are already at retirement age, maybe you're getting RMDs or you're taking withdrawals from retirement accounts. But regardless, we need to have an annual budget. Now, a couple of things you can do to help stretch it that I don't always see retirees thinking about to make more money out of what you have. If you're not using a cashback credit card, I think you should be looking at it. If you're always using a debit card, you're losing an opportunity. I use the example on the slide. If you're spending $2,000 a month and you have a 2% cashback card, that's an extra $480 a year you can be paid just for using the credit card to pay your bills. You can put your phone bill, your cable bill, gas, groceries, often your electric bill, whatever the case may be, anything you can pay with a credit card, it'll give you 2% cash back. This only works when you pay the bill off each month. So you're using this as a mechanism that the money piles up into the checking account because you're not doing a debit card, you're not writing very many checks. And then when you get the bill, you have an additional grace period. So paying off a $2,000 or $5,000 a month credit card bill is not going to be an issue. You're still spending the same amount of money. You're just paying it in one entry instead of multiple ones in order to get the cash back. And this can be substantial. In this example, I want you to think about 10 years of retirement. If you did this for just 10 years, that's an extra $4,800 that you don't have to earn somewhere and have it put in your pocket tax-free. Now, another thing, AARP and other organizations have discount cards that can help you secure lower pricing for many things, which again will help stretch the dollars. Some of you are paying car insurance or life insurance that you're doing on a monthly basis or quarterly. I'm going to ask you to rearrange your finances a little bit, because by changing those to an annual basis instead of monthly on every coverage that you have, you generally can save an additional 3 to 8% on the premiums, and it's the exact same coverage. Now, let's pretend that it's just a number. Your number could be different. Let's say between the homeowner's insurance, your car insurance, your life insurance, maybe you have a long-term care, maybe you've got a critical illness, cancer policy, whatever it is, you're paying $10,000 a year in insurance premiums. Well, at just 3%, that's a $300 savings If it's at 8%, that's $800. And remember, I want to teach you about multiply this times 10 years, because once you start a habit, you're going to do it a long time. That could be an extra $300 to $800 a year for you to be able to spend that didn't require you to earn it. And again, little bits at a time. So you want to look at some of these things that you can do. Pill splitting. There's lots of different things that we can do that can stretch your retirement income. So sometimes when you're a little short of enough, we can make it enough, or we've got more room to do what you really want to do in other areas. Now, when we're operating on a fixed income, and I have put my email address over in the chart, you're welcome to reach out. I have what is called an irregular expense account. What I look to do with clients is to take all of those things that are not monthly. You already know you're going to buy groceries and you're going to pay a utility bill unless you have solar panels. So there are things that are recurring. We're looking for the things that are not recurring, like your medical copays and deductibles, car repairs. Maybe you do dry cleaning now and then. You've got home maintenance, pest control, whatever it is. And I want to try and get that amount. And then I use a multiplier on it of 1.1 to 1.3, so that if we've forgotten anything, we're padding it correctly. So let me give you an idea of how this can work for you and make it easier. Let's pretend that I added everything up and it came out to be $12,000 a year, which kind of surprised me because I'm used to just paying for them as I go. I didn't realize how big the number was when I looked at the whole number, but it's $12,000 a year. Well, once a month, I would put $1,000 into a separate account that I have that is for only irregular expenses that are on my list. If I get paid every 2 weeks, maybe I put it in every 2 weeks. But regardless to how you put it in, I'm going to put in $1,000 a month. Now, what happens is this account, if you can look at my picture for a minute, this account goes like the tides. You know, you put money into it, and then we got to take some money out, and the value will go down. And this is just a repeated cycle. Now, what happens sometimes, you don't need to take anything out. So what happens is it's kind of like a high tide. It goes up higher than the number that you're used to until we've got a big expense that brings it back down, like a roof repair, like buying a new set of appliances. Now we've went on vacation. Now we've, something big has happened. Now, by doing it that way, it's very easy to track to see if you've been pretty accurate on your expenses. And you can also notice if expenses are starting to rise where you need to increase that number. But it can take an irregular expense and it can levelize it so that when we're living within our means or within our budget, we've got the means to take care of and to pay for things. Now we're going to talk about 3 key tax years. Now there's the full tax year prior to retirement, and we've got to start putting things in action. I really like to see it 2 years before, but at least a year before. Now that year that you retire, if you have not started Social Security is watching your earnings. Now, depending upon your age, you can have a ceiling on how much you can earn that year, or they will start taking benefits back. So let's pretend and understand, I don't know when you're going to be watching this video, and these numbers are indexed annually. So I'm just going to use this number as an example. You need to check the current numbers. For example, if I could not earn more than $20,000, and anything over $20,000, they take $1 away for every $2 I earned. If that year, and I didn't time my retirement correctly, then let's say that I earned $30,000. Well, it's $10,000 over the $20,000 number. I would forfeit and have to give back $5,000 of benefits if I had been pulling them, which is very expensive. Most people don't realize this has happened until the second year. So we want to know that Social Security is watching your income. So you want to understand what the transition rules are so that you do not give any money back, because once you've given that money back, you will never see it again. So we've got to watch that. Now, the full year after you retire is a little bit different too. because the full year after you retire, that's to me is kind of a transition year. Maybe you've exited from employment. Now you're trying to start a pension or you're trying to start Social Security, but you're really not level yet because there are a lot of different moving parts that are coming into play. You may also have to speak with your tax advisor and change your tax dynamics, your tax structures. I mean, many things are happening, whether you're moving or you're trying to get set up for a travel lifestyle, whatever it is, this transition year, you may want to look and determine whether you should take distributions out a little bit and wait till the following year or do it a year before, but you've got a lot of opportunity to control your tax bill to help you retain more of the money that you have accumulated in your accounts and to have the lowest possible. Now, on future tax years, things are going to change. Tax laws change, your income changes, your expense change, you may move. So don't get too comfortable. You want to have these conversations with your tax professional, at least on an annual basis. And you know, somewhere between January and April may not be a very good time. But during the summer or the latter part of the year, when you have opportunities to make changes before the end of the current tax year and plan for changes you could make at the beginning of the following tax year, gives you a lot of ability to control tax liabilities and to avoid unwanted surprises. I'm really going to reiterate on this, and an example I have used many times. Most of you know what dominoes are. And if you've ever played dominoes, then you know, as a kid or whatever, you would line them up, and as you knock them over, they would go in a straight line or a curly Q or a Y, whatever you did. Every time you put an entry on the tax return, it's like knocking another domino. And when you knock that domino over, and it's a tax domino, it's going to trigger something else to happen. It could be something that's good for you. It could be something that's bad for you because it will take money away. So knowing that you may need professional help to figure out where some of those tax domino triggers are can make the biggest difference for you. Now we're on taxes, so I want you to look, and if you would be so kind, put it in the chat, shout it out loud, whatever. I don't want you to feel embarrassed. We're all, having a good time here. Will the real federal tax bill please stand up on $75,000 of gross income? You're going to see in the examples, we're going to go through these, but I just want your opinion. We have $75,000 of gross income. You're going to see I have three different amounts that have on the far right-hand column, three different tax rates: 14.67, 5.02, 2.44. Which one of those do you think is the correct answer? Real quick. 14, 5, 2. Which one? Well, let's find out. Let's say that this individual has $75,000 of taxable income. We've got $20,000 of Social Security. It could be earnings. This is just an example how everybody is different. We have a $23,000 pension. We've got $7,000 coming in because they own a rental property. They're taking $25,000 out of the IRA, and altogether that income is $75,000. The taxes due with the pieces arranged in this way is $11,002. So when I look at that as an effective tax rate with the pieces arranged in this manner, the tax rate is 14.67%. Now, I don't know. That's just the federal. They may have to pay state income taxes too. That's an answer that I do not have, but it may have to be something that's part of the equation. So if you guessed 14.67, if I look at a partially taxable retirement, because we're going to rearrange the pieces just a little bit, you recognize the same Social Security, the same pension, we have the same rental property, but notice the difference. We have a Roth IRA, which is not taxable if we follow a couple of easy rules, or non-qualified money. That could be money that was in a CD. That could be extra money in checking. It was in savings somewhere else. So that's where they took the other $25,000. They still had $75,000 of income, but just having this one piece be different. When I mentioned how the dominoes fall, Notice how the tax bill dropped to only $3,766. So by just changing one piece, the tax bill dropped to only 5.02% of income. Wow. So there's what, almost an $8,000 difference by how these pieces were arranged. Now, if you said that 5.02 was the right rate, congratulations, you were also correct. Let's look at our third example. We still have the same $20,000 Social Security. We have a $23,000 pension. They sold the rental property. They're taking money out of the Roth IRA or non-qualified, $25,000. Maybe they threw some of the money into a CD or arranged the pieces. That's where they're getting $7,000. Same $75,000 of gross income, but now look at what the tax liability is. In this situation, they are paying only 2.44% of their income. And no wonder they're smiling, because in this case, that's almost almost $9,000 difference in spendable income. Huge difference on what you could and could not do into retirement. So just taking a quick look at that again, all three of the answers were correct. It depends upon how you arrange the tax pieces. Most of you will need a professional to help you with this and to determine what this could do. Now, step back and say, well, what is the difference? If we could change your tax bill by $8,000 a year, maybe you don't need to take as much out because you're not paying the tax bill, which would reduce it even further by arranging the pieces where we can. Or if I said that we don't have to spend $8,000 a year on taxes, what's that times 10 years? That's $80,000. That is at least one more year of retirement income that you didn't give away to taxes. So do you see how all these little pieces can have a huge effect on what you can do in retirement, whatever method you choose? Now, there is a little hint on Social Security. If you have already started drawing it, you are allowed to pay that back only once. Now, what happened if someone went ahead and started drawing Social Security and then something happened? And they're like, wow, I wish I wouldn't have done this. What is that rule again? I can pay it back within 12 months and it's at 0%. And why would I want to pay my Social Security back within the first 12 months, every dime that I've gotten? Well, maybe you got a job offer you didn't expect. You were asked to come back as a consultant, or something happened, and now you are going to be making money that would make you forfeit and give back some of that Social Security, and you have locked yourself into a lower benefit for a lifetime. We don't want to do that. And if we pay that money back, it's gone forever. So maybe that's a reason. What happens if your retirement hobby suddenly became a business? Is it really a hobby? Well, if you started as a business, talk to a tax professional. But if your intent is to make money on this and it's very successful, before that 12 months is up, you're going to need to make a decision on whether you turn off Social Security within that first 12 months, pay all the money back, and then wait or delay taking it later. And every year that you delay taking it later, you get an additional 8% increase, maybe a little more. It just depends upon your numbers at that point. So we don't want to lock you in at a lower benefit and have to pay money back too. So this is something very important to keep in mind during that first 12 months of retirement. This is an example that we've got up, and we're going to say the threshold here is $17,600. I will repeat, you just need to check and see what the current number is. Now, on this $17,640 I earned, it doesn't matter if you are 99 years old, whether you are self-employed making a profit or you're a W-2 person, you will continue to pay Social Security taxes, even if you're drawing Social Security. We'll pay Social Security, we'll pay Medicare taxes. We repay nothing to Social Security for excess earnings over the limit because we were underneath that amount at that point. And with that, we do have income taxes that were due. So in this scenario, this person would really net out about $14,273 when we paid the liabilities. And for some of you, you're going to look at it and decide whether this is what you're willing to trade your time for or not. So now let's look at another example. The earnings jumped to 22,500 and we still have the same threshold example. Well, your Social Security taxes went up, Medicare went up a little bit, but look at this. We had to repay $2,400 in Social Security benefits because we were over that $17,000 limit. So the difference between here and here divided by 2, that's what we had to give back. We also had income taxes that had to be paid. So in this scenario, they netted out about $15,749. In this scenario, if this person was from the first example working part of the year versus working longer in the year, you know, those extra 10 weeks a year that they worked, really, they were only earning about $3.32 an hour when you looked at what the ripple effects were of having that higher wage. And if I ask some of you that are watching at this point, would you be willing to sign up for a job that you knew that you were going to be working full time for 10 weeks and you were going to earn $3.32 an hour? Most of you would say, I am going to stay home. It is not worth it for me. I'll do something else. Now, in another final example, this one was paid $500 a week, which was $26,000 a year. There's our Social Security, Medicare taxes. Now we had to pay back over $4,000 in Social Security benefits. We had estimated income taxes. They netted out about $16,780. So it may look like they were making a lot more money because, you know, 26,000 sounds like more than 17. Surely I'm going to be getting ahead. But in this particular example, they worked an additional 17 weeks a year. So they worked 52 weeks instead of 35, where they wouldn't have to forfeit any Social Security benefits. And for those extra 17 weeks a year, wow, $3.69 an hour. You may or may not be willing to do that, or you may begrudge those last 17 weeks of the year. Now, if I was one final example, because I didn't talk to anybody before I went and triggered it, because I said, I'm 62 and I'm going to pull that money no matter what, and I'm going to cut back a little bit. $40,000 is even more painful, because at the $40,000 level, by the time you do Social Security, Medicare, this hurt badly, because this individual had to pay back over $11,000 of their Social Security benefits. And you can be assured that that money was spent. They had income taxes that were due. So even though they thought they were going to keep making $40,000 and they were going to get their Social Security, that is not what happened. They ended up netting out $19,000 because of all the penalties. I don't want that to be you. So when you're operating on a fixed income, I'm going to reiterate, you need to have an annual budget, but you need to look at a couple of these other components to see what we can do to make more out of what you have to work with, and not give away money to pay back Social Security, not give away money to taxes that we shouldn't have to pay. Another example we're going to talk about is, well, how much does it cost to spend $10,000? Well, if it happens to be in a tax deferred account, many of you have been good savers. You've put it in IRAs or 401ks. If you are self-employed, maybe used a simple IRA. If you worked for a nonprofit, 403B, 457, it's kind of like a lot of numbers and maybe alphabet soup at that point. Well, in this example, if I was over age 59 and a half and I wanted to spend $10,000, I'm going to have to take out $13,400 because I'm going to have to give up $3,400 in taxes to net the $10,000 that I need in a 25% bracket. So let that sink in. Were you planning on spending $13,000 or were you spending only $10,000? This will affect how long your money lasts and goes back to the taxation on how you arrange some of the pieces. Now, how much does it cost to spend $10,000 if you are under the age of 59 and a half? Well, we still have that 25% tax bracket, but because you're under age 59 and a half in these taxable accounts, you also get hit with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. So now your tax rate has gone up to 35%. You'll have to pull out $15,500 in order to net 10. Now we're talking where it's really hurting. And for some of you who look at these and it can put you in different brackets and you inherit IRAs or 401k amounts and you think, oh, I'm going to spend this, I'm going to buy a house, car, whatever. Well, you may be paying $1.50 to get $1 worth of good, and it is not going to make economic sense here. But there's also the hidden costs that you never thought of. Every time I take a dime out of an account that is earning anything, whether it's in a 401k, a mutual fund, a CD, stocks, wherever it's at, once it's out of that account, I will never earn another dime of earnings on it ever again. That's the hidden cost. Now, on my hypothetical $10,000, if I took it out and it was earning 5%, I've just lost $500 of earnings and all the compounding on it forevermore. So it's very important when you're looking at your withdrawals, what the ripple effects may be on that. In a lot of cases, living abroad may be able to bridge the gap from not enough, no matter what we do, to being more than enough by changing locations. So it is possible, and it may not be anything that you've thought about, but we're going to explore that because that can be an option for retirement. Now we're going to end up here with Mark Twain said it well. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did. Throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sail, explore, dream, and discover. So I am Amy Herrick. For those of you who've been watching, if you go to on my YouTube channel, you'll be able to see other issues and different discussions that I'm going to be putting up going forward. Thank you for joining me today.